talk about the uses of glucose. Now, glucose, remember, is the sugar that's created by plants. The energy that's released from glucose is usually during the process of cellular respiration. So the process of photosynthesis is when it actually gets made, the glucose gets made, and during the process of cellular respiration, which we will talk about soon, is actually where the energy gets released. So it gets released from the glucose. Now typically it's stored as starch, and this is why we get to eat starches. This is the glucose, basically, that we're eating. This is why it's a carbohydrate. Now, the glucose is also used to make proteins and other organic substances. So, for instance, if we take glucose plus nitrate, which is from the soil, we're actually going to create amino acids. Now, amino acids are the basis of the proteins. These are our monomers. Now, if we take many amino acids and we link them together, then we create proteins. So as you see, glucose is a beginner to making proteins. It's very important for the cell and for the organism. Now, during transport, glucose is changed to sucrose to be transported around. Now, this is typically in plants. Remember, this is all about plant nutrition. Now, since we changed the sucrose for transport, what we're doing is actually making it smaller and soluble. So we're actually making it dissolvable, which allows for easy transport. So glucose is used for a variety of things. So remember, it's used to make proteins. It is changed to sucrose for transport. It's stored from starch, or stored as starch. And the energy that releases from the glucose is from the process of cellular respiration. Now, there are some limiting factors present during photosynthesis. So a limiting factor are things that are present in the environment in such short supply that it restricts life processes. So for example, if I say the limiting factor to getting a new job would be the fact that I don't have a certain skill on my resume. So let's say the job is for a manufacturing job. If I've never had a manufacturing job in my life, that's a limiting factor. That's something that's present in the environment that's of short supply, and it's going to inhibit my process to get a job in the manufacturing divisions. Now, for photosynthesis, photosynthesis is directly affected by various environmental factors. So you can say that any of these four are limiting factors to photosynthesis. So some of these limiting factors are sunlight, carbon dioxide, temperature, and the stomata. So for example, if sunlight is not available, then the plant cannot go through photosynthesis because it doesn't have that ability to absorb the sunlight. And since sunlight is needed to make glucose, it's not going to happen. If carbon dioxide is a limiting factor, if it's in short supply in the environment, chances are that's not going to allow photosynthesis to happen either. Temperature, if it's too cold or too hot, then photosynthesis will not take place. The same with the stomata. Now, for instance, if the stomata gets, for whatever reason, the stomata are kept closed, then that's a limiting factor. The waste products of photosynthesis cannot be released. If the stomata are completely open, it might release too much water. In that case, water is not present, since it's one of those factors that a plant needs to survive, then that's going to be a limiting factor. So the stomata are also a limiting factor. So any of these four here, sunlight, carbon dioxide, temperature, and stomata, these are all limiting factors to photosynthesis.